coordinated and years-long spying against a presidential candidate and ultimately the President of the United States and his administration, that of Donald J. Trump. We'll have the shocking details. Just the News Editor-in-Chief John Solomon will join us on this important story here this evening. And outrageous assault on free speech in this country by the radical left, by big tech, social media, Wall Street, and the left-wing media itself. President Trump released a video message in which he blasted big tech's efforts to silence him and his 75 million supporters.
I also want to say a few words about the unprecedented assault on free speech we have seen in recent days. These are tense and difficult times. The efforts to censor, cancel, and blacklist our fellow citizens are wrong, and they are dangerous. What is needed now is for us to listen to one another, not to silence one another.
The president's message comes as Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey released a bizarre string of tweets in which he tried to wax philosophical about the, quote, noble ideal of the internet and how he is striving to be better. Sickening farce on the part of Dorsey, who defended Twitter's decision, that is, his decision, to permanently ban President Trump on Twitter, saying this, quote, I believe this was the right decision for Twitter. That said, having to ban an account has real and significant ramifications. Dorsey, you better believe it does, and you're about to experience them. Twitter is one of 14 big tech and social media companies that have deplatformed the President of the United States and his 75 million voters. Companies that are answerable to no one other than their shareholders, public companies, acting on ill-defined and arbitrary policies and no principles that have been justified either in law or in corporate boardrooms anywhere in the country. This showdown over big tech censorship of conservative voices, of conservatives, and whomever chose to vote for President Trump have put this country on a knife's edge of division. The social media site Parler argued before a Carter-appointed federal judge that Amazon's decision to remove it from the Amazon servers violated antitrust law. Fox News correspondent Dan Springer with the report from Seattle, where the court battle between Parler and Amazon is playing out.
This hearing lasted about 30 minutes, and now we wait for the ruling. And basically, the judge has to decide whether or not to issue a temporary restraining order that would force Amazon to put Parler back on. That the events of January 6th changed the way we think about the world, took what was merely hypothetical and made it chillingly real. Amazon had every right after that happened with the surge in content, violent content on Parler, to take that into content. Parler has grown rapidly in recent months and now has 15 million users, many coming over from Twitter after President Trump's account was blocked. The company's lawyer argued today that there is no evidence that Parler had anything to do with the criminal behavior at the Capitol. David Groesbeck also said today, millions of law-abiding Americans have had their voices silenced by Amazon Web Services. The company's CEO says Amazon is caving to political pressure from the left.
You go back as far as September, and Amazon was offering us investment opportunities into our company, financial, by joining their investment programs. So I know this wasn't Amazon saying they had a long-standing disagreement with us.
Hearing the case is federal judge Barbara Rothstein, who was appointed by Jimmy Carter in 1980. She would be considered a liberal activist judge, but that might actually help Parler in this case. In 1990, she overturned a federal law that made it a crime to burn the American flag. She ruled that burning an American flag is protected free speech.
And free speech we must protect. Let's hope that the federal judiciary, as corrupt as it has proved to be, will find agreement with the Constitution. Thank you, Dan Springer from Seattle. Big tech isn't the only group that the radical Dems possessed who censor dissent. Socialist Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is now blaming the media, the national left-wing media, for last week's Capitol Hill chaos, and is calling on government to rein in the press.
I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy, because that is a part of what happened here. We're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation.
Well, the disinformation of Antifa and Black Lives Matter, those narratives that accompany their street violence, doesn't seem to provoke any curiosity on the part of either AOC or anyone on the left, especially on the far left. The left's push, the radical Dems push, to silence conservatives, stifle free speech, and destroy dissent in this country reminds some of the Gadsden flag that isn't flying in many quarters of about half of the country right now. How about this one as a counter? Please tread lightly, with man kneeling, and the words, please, please, pretty please, tread lightly. It seems to better represent the state of much of the country in this 21st century and the utter indifference to the destruction of the Constitution.
Football season is here, and so is the NFL Network on YouTube TV.
Want to know where to invest $1,000 right now? Hi, Rex Moore with The Motley Fool. And if you know us,
Constitution and the abridgment of nearly all of our rights. Well, in addition to calling out the assault on free speech today, President Trump sent a video message to condemn the violence at the Capitol last week and to call again for peace. President Trump has condemned that violence now 8 times since the storming of that mob of the Capitol.
I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Making America great again has always been about defending the rule of law, supporting the men and women of law enforcement, and upholding our nation's most sacred traditions and values. Mob violence goes against everything I believe in and everything our movement stands for. No true supporter of mine could ever endorse political violence. No true supporter of mine could ever disrespect law enforcement or our great American flag. No true supporter of mine could ever threaten or harass their fellow Americans. If you do any of these things, you are not supporting our movement, you are attacking it, and you are attacking our country. We cannot tolerate it.
And the president's supporters do not tolerate that mob and the violence and the death and destruction that it created. One of the president's greatest defenders in Congress is Congressman Jim Jordan. He has also condemned the riots at every turn. Here he is.
What happened a week ago, Lou, as we all know, we've all condemned it. It was tragic. It was terrible. It's as wrong can be. But it wasn't because of the president's speech. Be consistent, all of us. All of us need to be consistent and condemn the violence all the time. We should condemn all political violence all the time. When it happened last summer and when it happened last week. But they're going to impeach the president for saying peacefully and patriotically, make your voices heard. You got to hold the people who did these terrible things accountable. And the law enforcement and the Justice Department is doing just that. You know, people are responsible for their actions, and these terrible actions that were taken, they need to be held accountable and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Let's work together on condemning all violence all the time. Let's work together on bringing the country together. Let's work together over the next week through this transition.
It's a difficult transition, and attention is turning to the Senate now, where the impeachment trial of President Trump will not happen. And if it were to happen, it wouldn't happen until after he is out of office. Senator Tom Cotton says this, quote, "The Senate lacks constitutional authority to conduct impeachment proceedings against a former president." For the latest now on that, we turn to Fox News Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel with the latest. Mike?
Well, Lou, good evening. Some Democrats are concerned that battle over impeachment in the Senate could slow down confirmation of the Biden team, and leading Republicans say it would also delay healing.
But at the end of the day, you saw a lot of members who just said, this is enough. I mean, let's focus on turning the page. Let's focus on moving on. And that's going to happen next week on the 20th when Joe Biden's sworn in as president. This is only going to make matters worse in a country that's deeply, deeply divided right now.
President-elect Biden saying last night, quote, "I hope that the Senate leadership will find a way to deal with their constitutional responsibilities on impeachment while also working on the other urgent business of this nation. But it's not clear if the Senate rules will allow that. So some Democrats are suggesting putting the trial on the back burner."
If we can't, then maybe we delay the trial for a while so that we can actually get President Biden's nominees and cabinet up and running, and so that we can actually get a COVID relief package out the door immediately.
There's also the issue of President Trump no longer being in office. Several Republicans say there's a constitutional issue there, making the case impeachment is for removing people from office and not punishing private citizens. Bottom line, at a time when Joe Biden is eager to deliver results for the American people in his first 100 days, he is worried about it being slowed down and not moving. Lou?
Mike, thank you very much. Mike Emanuel from Capitol Hill. Thank you. Joe Biden obviously not so worried that he would speak against impeachment, as he has had the opportunity to do. Up next, we're learning about the threats of violent attack and refusing to act. The Bureau had knowledge, for example, of the 9/11 attacks, the Boston Marathon bombers. They also talked with the Pulse nightclub and Parkland High School shooters, and they recently investigated the home of the Nashville Christmas Day bomber. The incident most recent, the next most recent, that riot and mob that assaulted the Capitol last Wednesday. AT&T, CNN making quite a correction about the radical Dem Congressman Ted Lieu's actions during last week's Capitol protest. At the bottom of their reporting, titled "How a Swift Impeachment Was Born Under Siege," CNN now writes this, quote, "A previous version of this story misstated that Representative Ted Lieu grabbed a crowbar before leaving his office. He grabbed a Pro-Bar energy bar." Good old CNN. And here's a visual aid for our friends at CNN. Former Congressman, former Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, best-selling author, Fox Business contributor, and great American. Good to have you with us. His new book is "They Never Let a Crisis Go to Waste: The Truth About Disaster Liberalism." We recommend it to you highly, and you can pre-order the book right now. Correct? Is that correct, Jason?
Yes. Thanks, Lou. It is chock full of stories, and I think it will illuminate people as to how these liberals operate. They take a crisis, they use it as an excuse, and often the remedy has nothing to do with the crisis itself.
Introducing Ziba, the world's first hands-free sneaker built for comfort. You heard that correct. Zibas are hands-free, and you can put them on without bending over. We've simply designed a better shoe you can put on effortlessly. You've never seen a sneaker like this. Just take a look from the side. The way your foot slips right in effortlessly, and the way the back bends down and pops back up. You can take your shoe off just as easily. And these are designed to look and feel like any other pair of sneakers. We've simply reinvented the sneaker with the user in mind and improved it. In fact, we believe our sneakers are actually more comfortable than your typical big brand sneaker. It's not like you're sacrificing comfort for convenience. Zibas deliver both convenience with extreme comfort. And these are designed to be used anywhere. You can play sports, you can run, you can walk in these. They feel just like any other sneaker. Our goal wasn't to create an entirely new kind of footwear. We were here to improve the sneaker, and we think we've done a marvelous job. It's actually mind-boggling to us that no one has done this before. I'm sure we've all seen family, friends, relatives who just shove their foot into the back of their sneaker to get it on because they don't want to bend over. Zebras are great for anybody, but especially so if you have trouble bending over. Whether you have back pain, are pregnant, had surgery, or any illness is stopping from bending over, Zebras are perfect for you. They're perfect for anyone who simply wants a better sneaker. I'm one of the co-founders of Zeba, and I've actually been wearing my own Zeba shoes for months now, and I have over 500 miles walked, and I've never had a problem. I absolutely love my Zebas. I cannot even imagine myself wearing another pair of shoes. Wearing any other shoe now feels like washing your clothes manually when you have a washing machine right there, or even having a car with the windows you got to roll down manually. It's just really hard for me to wear any other sneakers now that I've worn Zebas, and I think you'll feel the same way too. We really think Zeba revolutionizes the sneaker, and we're confident when you try your Zebas on, you're going to absolutely love them. And yes, technically you do have to bend down just once to tie it to your liking, and after that, you'll never have to bend down again. Just tie them once, you can even double knot it to keep it secure, and then you'll never have to bend down again. Get your Zebas now at zebashoes.com. That's zebashoes.com.
Just imagine the perfect small business that you could start. What would that look like? You'd be able to work from home. You wouldn't have to rent expensive commercial office space. Number two, you could do it part-time. You wouldn't have to quit your day job. Number three, you could make a lot of money doing it. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sure, that doesn't make you a billionaire, but wouldn't you like to have an extra couple $100,000 a year coming in working from home part-time? It's a lot of money. Number four, no equipment, no special machines. Number five, no inventory, no boxes of candles or potions or pills in your garage. Number six, no employees. You can get started with just you. Now, you can add employees if you want to, but you don't need to. Number seven, low upfront investment. We're not talking the hundreds of thousands of dollars required to have a McDonald's franchise. So right now, you're probably thinking, what is this? Well, you're going to be surprised. Number eight, successful in your own backyard. You don't have to travel. You can do it right where you're at. Number nine, no licenses or degrees. You don't have to be an MBA from Harvard. You don't have to spend a fortune on education. Number 10, and this is what kicks out many of the ideas you may have in your head. You might be thinking one of those MLM, Amway kind of network marketing companies. No. You might be thinking maybe it's some internet website company. No. And here's why. Because the perfect small business needs to satisfy a basic human need. Because when you do that, it works in perpetuity. It worked hundreds of years ago. It's going to work 100 years from now, 300 years from now. And what is this? What satisfies all 10 of these to make it the perfect small business that you could start? Creative real estate and flipping houses. That's the perfect small business you can start. It hits every single one of these points. And how can you get started with it? Get your free copy of my best-selling book, How to Be a Real Estate Investor. This book has hundreds of 5-star reviews on Amazon, but you don't have to pay a penny for it. You can get it free because you watch this video. Click the video now to get your copy of this best-selling book. And this is the book that I wish would have been written. I wish I would have read when I first got started, because I stumbled around for years before I got the hang of it. And in this book, I actually share with you my incredible true story about how I ended up going homeless, broke, living out of my truck in Nashville, Tennessee. And then how through the tutelage of a mentor, I became financially free, living the life of my dreams in a waterfront mansion in Florida. And look, you can do this too. Real estate is timeless. It'll always be here. And it has all these wonderful attributes. In fact, even though I don't need to do it anymore, I still do this business part-time because it's that good. So get your free copy of this best-selling book right now and get on the path to financial freedom. Real stuff, too. This is real estate. It's always going to be there. And this is the greatest small business that has ever existed. And it's something that you absolutely can do. Well, thanks so much for watching. Oh, by the way, my name is Phil Pustiowski. My company is Freedom Mentor. And grab this book, but also check out my videos. Learn more about how you can become a successful real estate investor no matter where you're starting from. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.
but it's actually an opportunity to do things that they would never, ever get away with in any other setting because they would never go through the normal constitutional process.
Well, let's talk about constitutional process because it looks like the record of the radical left in this country, the radical Dems, is complete. They are going after a president for a second time. And let's be very clear, this is Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and now the vice president, the president-elect, Joe Biden, embracing impeachment against this president again. This is the president right now is declassifying secret documents that have been, in many cases, hidden from the public, and the FBI in particular stonewalling not only the public, but Congress, the Senate, the president, and even the special counsel, it seems, about just how nefarious the scheme was against this president as first a candidate and as president. And we are led to believe that those documents are going to be explosive. We already know that the plot that was created by Hillary Clinton is what the FBI and other agencies acted out. The worst is yet to come. We're going to be talking with John Solomon about that very issue here tonight. You don't want to miss a word of it. Let me ask you this, Jason. We know that this mob broke away from the rally. This was at the end of the rally. People were going home. There's now evidence, and Gateway Pundit is among those with the video, showing a Black Lives activist, an Antifa activist, who was apparently bragging about having spurred on this effort to assault the Capitol. This is looking really very ugly. It was suspected. In point of fact, it proves it may be proving the president is right once again. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no matter who it was, no matter their political persuasion, if you're beating up a police officer, you're intimidating the Capitol Police, you're breaking in, I want you to be arrested and prosecuted. I think Republicans have been wholly consistent on that. The president's been consistent on that. It is looking more and more like there is a big conspiracy behind this as well. Now, there are people that perhaps got caught up in the enthusiasm of what was going on there and their exuberance and misplaced that and doing something violent. That was totally fundamentally wrong, and they should be prosecuted. Yeah. But when you show up at this event in riot gear and you have zip ties and all of those things, you didn't just have a spontaneous reaction to some comments at a rally down the other end of the mall.
We know from video that one of them at least was an Antifa activist and a well-known Antifa activists. We're going to have more on that later here at the broadcast as we develop the story. Your reaction to the idea that the left is so venal and so arrogant that they would create an article of impeachment for a president who didn't say one single insightful word in his speech on the mall whatsoever. And they didn't hold a hearing. They didn't have a debate. They just decided they were going to railroad the president of the United States again and dismiss all of that nonsense about hearings and due process. They always were just pretending due process, but they even dropped that pretense. Your reaction and how severe should be the penalty against the Democrat Party and its leadership?
Well, you need to vote. These people need to be voted out. I mean, these are the people who, Bill McGurn, I heard him speak. He made a comment. He said, you get an offender bender and you have to go to court. You get more due process than the president of the United States got in this scenario. I read the resolution that was put forth to Congress. There is not a single quote of something that the president said. And believe me, if they had it, they would have used it. That was insightful or says to break the law or storm the Capitol or do anything like that. And it's shameful that they didn't get 100% of the Republicans to vote no. I'm disappointed in the 10 that voted yes, but, they did what they did.
It looks to me like the Republican Party is frankly at the precipice. When Kevin McCarthy, the minority leader, says the president is responsible for the violence, at the mall and at the Capitol. That's pretty sad. When the majority leader of the Senate, soon to be apparently minority leader Mitch McConnell, makes his remarks that were absolutely virulent and in my opinion, ignorant. These are people who don't care about the party, the president. They don't care about the Constitution themselves, because they're acting in utter disregard of the president's right to loyalty from his party, from certainly the leadership of the party, or at least, the very least, how about some evidence that anything those two leaders in those two houses had, possessed, to make their accusations?
A different future starts with you. That's why GoDaddy does more than help you find a name. You can create, sell, and get found online, so any small business can drive change or build an empire. We need a new generation of thinking, your way of thinking. Start different at GoDaddy.com.
It's a horrible time. And look at they put Ronna McDaniel back as the chair of the Republican National Committee. She lost a president and she lost the Senate. What is going on in your party?
Well, I got to tell you, I think Ronna did a pretty darn good job. They did lose those 2 Senate seats. I think there are some other factors along with that. There's not a single Republican in the House of Representatives running for re-election that lost their position. I think they did lose some votes on the impeachment side of the equation, but Kevin McCarthy voted no, the leadership voted no, and 95% of the Republicans in the House voted no. So, we've got to be a little bit careful. I do think there are some comments that the president...
Wait a minute. You said I got to be careful? I'm very careful.
Well,
I'm very careful. I quoted them exactly as they spoke.
I know, but I'm saying...
I don't understand what you mean about being careful.
Well, I think if we make some sweeping generalizations about all people and all things in the entire party, I wouldn't necessarily agree with those, Lou. I've told you how I see it and how I call it.
You can disagree with me.
There's got to be a degree of personal
And you don't even have to
responsibility.
be careful, Jason, when you disagree with me. It's your right as an American. I love free speech. Jason, we're out of time. We got to hard out. Thanks so much, Jason Chaffetz. Let's go straight to break and not make any producers any angrier with me than they are. We'll be right back. Joining us tonight is Gordon Chang. He's columnist, author, senior fellow at the Gatestone Institute, great American. Great to see you, Gordon. Let's start, if we may, with Starbucks and Xi Jinping's call to Howard Schultz, the former CEO and the founder of Starbucks. This is person-to-person foreign policy. It's sort of unusual. Can every CEO expect a call from Xi Jinping?
Well, many of them will get that because we know that corporate America, especially the multinationals and Wall Street, have been carrying Beijing's narratives. And we know what the Chinese themselves are thinking. They are thinking that they can determine outcomes at the top of the American political system with the new president coming in, with Biden. They have actually said in public, Lou, that they couldn't do that during the Trump years, but they could do it before, during the administrations of George W. Bush and President Obama. So they're just licking their chops in Beijing with January 20.
And Howard Schultz is reciprocating. Listen to Howard Schultz, everybody, as he gives you a pretty clear idea of why Xi Jinping was delighted to talk with him.
Is it in our national interest to have a fight with Mexico, Canada, the EU, China, NATO? Is it in our interest? Give me a break. No, it's not in our interest. These are our friends. These are our allies. We're much better as a country being part of the world order.
I know, a friend and an ally. I mean, Howard Schultz is being disingenuous. He's also lying through his teeth. We aren't in a fight with Mexico and or Canada. We have a great new trade agreement as a result of this president. The same is true with our relationship with the EU now. It's your thoughts.
Yeah, well, Howard Schultz said was making up history. And the other thing is, in other comments he made, he was talking about the quote-unquote trade war and how bad it was. Well, it was important for President Trump to impose costs on China for stealing U.S. intellectual property to the tune of $500 billion a year, $600 billion a year. We don't hear that from corporate America, and we didn't hear it from Howard Schultz about how the president is defending the American economy.
And you know what we're not also hearing? We're not hearing about the FBI defending this country. We're hearing about the FBI becoming really a perpetual, residual for where truth goes to die. It's really awful what this agency has become. They arrested today an MIT thermal energy and nanoengineering professor, Gang Chen, arrested for failing to disclose his relationship and payment from the Chinese government while getting over $19 billion in U.S. Government funding. This is appalling. We've got FBI agents crawling all over this country doing nothing. And by the way, we know 20 years ago, there were 3,500 front companies in this country spying for the Chinese. And we know also there are 100 Confucius Institutes, as we were reminded by the Secretary of State. We don't know how many there are now, but I suspect it's the same number.
Yeah, you know, what's going on here is that China is using every point of contact with the United States to undermine our government. They worked very hard during the campaign to make sure that Biden won. They fomented violence on American streets, sending out videos on how to organize riots. That's more than subversion, Lou. That's an act of war.
Gordon Chang, as always, good to have you with us. Thanks for being here. Look forward to seeing you soon. Next, a major update on the president's release of Obamagate classified documents. John Solomon joins me on the story here next. We'll be right back. Breaking news now. Just the news editor-in-chief, John Solomon, reporting President Trump has declassified major Obamagate documents. The president's sweeping order includes everything from dossier author, former MI6 agent Christopher Steele, and debriefing reports from Stephen Hopper's role as FBI spy. The documents are expected to be released to the public as early as tomorrow or perhaps Monday. Joining us now is John Solomon, and he is also a great American and best-selling author. Good to have you with us, John. I want to turn to what we just reported here about 10 minutes ago, and that is that there is evidence that a left-wing activist was, in point of fact, an agitator in that mob that assailed the Capitol. I understand that you have reporting on this as well. Tell us what you will, please.
Yes, there is a new FBI affidavit filed in court today in which an FBI agent says John Sullivan of Utah, a liberal anarchist, liberal activist, was participating in the rally. He has been out there saying, listen, I was filming it as a journalist. I was there inside the Capitol as a journalist. The FBI says that is not true. He was participating in the acts according to the FBI. He was encouraging people to light things on fire. He was encouraging people to take things, and the FBI recommends in their affidavit that he be charged with federal crimes. This is the first known person that the FBI has confirmed, a liberal activist, not a Trump activist, a liberal activist engaged in criminality inside the Capitol as part of last Wednesday's riots.
A video of Sullivan operating and also recapsulizing his role in some braggadocio about how effective he was as a provocateur. That video I know is on a number of sites. Yours, it's on Gateway Pundit. I want to give them credit. It was the first that I saw. It is chilling to see what was going on. It is also very clear that we're going to have to wait some time before we should be making a headlong rush into a conclusion about that mob, because there are other videos out as well and you're reporting on this as well. I mean, we were watching Capitol Police open up stanchions and gates and fences that permitted mobs into mobs. They were at that point private citizens, it seemed, on their way to look at the Capitol. That turned into an outright vicious riot. So anyway, let's turn to the issue at hand, and that is the most important matter, I think, here tonight, and that is the president declassifying these documents on Obamagate, the spying conspiracy and plot, and the actual effort to overthrow this president as a result. We now know that there are documents that exist that support the president and make liars out of so many who claimed that there was no spying, there was no effort to do exactly what they did.
You are 100% right. I can confirm. We were talking last night. Will the president deliver on this? One of the last remaining promises. He has delivered in a big way, more than a foot-high stack of documents. He has authorized, released by the FBI and the Justice Department. These are the things that the FBI has tried to keep from the public for 4 years. They have amazing, big picture revelations. And let's start with, I think, the most important one. Christopher Steele, in his debriefings with the FBI after he was fired for leaking, he told the FBI, the reason I leaked is because I needed to help Hillary Clinton cover up her email problem. So I leaked to turn the attention to Donald Trump. The Russia collusion narrative was invented to protect Hillary Clinton from ongoing revelations about her email scandal. It was a political dirty trick, and that was Christopher Steele's own words. People tomorrow, I believe, will get to see his words. I've been reporting on this privately. I haven't seen the declassified documents yet, but I'm telling you that my reporting, I know that's in the document. Similarly, Stefan Halper, the other informant, I mean, he's the guy that recorded Papadopoulos and Carter Page.
Right.
In his tasking orders, when the FBI is tasking him, my sources tell me from weeks and months of reporting on this, that he was told to spy on the Trump campaign. In fact, he was given a cover. Try to pretend you might want to get involved and get hired by the Trump campaign, and then start talking to people and pump them from information. In anyone's book, that is spying. Remember, James Comey said it wasn't spying. The Democrats called it wasn't spying. This document, when it's released tomorrow or Monday, will blow out of the water any idea other than the FBI was spying on the Trump campaign. As early as August 16, the word Trump campaign was all over the FBI documents.
This is appalling. It's disgusting. Even as the Democrats have rushed into another farce of an impeachment.
Live TV from 85 plus channels with local sports and news. YouTube TV. Try it free.
Why aren't you the landlord? Yes, you. Why aren't you the landlord? Every day.
We're watching their first, which already has fallen apart. But now we know the criminal acts of a number of federal officers, whether they're in the State Department, whether they're the FBI, whether they were working with the FBI. This is explosive stuff. And while they are attacking the president, once again, they will have to be defending their own wretched corruption. Do you agree?
You're right. Look,